A top story this morning, United States President Joe Biden hosted the first ever Quad in-person meeting in Washington, D.C. The crucial meet between Prime Minister Narendra Modi, US President Joe Biden, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison and Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga lasted for 1.5 hours. After naming China, all four leaders sought an open Indo-Pacific trade and even better cooperation in the region. In his opening remarks, Prime Minister Modi said Quad will work in the role of force for global good and asserted that the cooperation in the group will ensure peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. President Biden said that this is a grouping of democratic partners who share a worldview and have a common view for the future and will take on key challenges of our age. All four countries were very critical of China and the current situation in Afghanistan, which was discussed at length. Prime Minister Modi, in fact, raised the issue of clean app movement aimed at reining in the Chinese app menace. Other issues that were discussed were COVID management, vaccine partnership, 8 million doses of biological E and Johnson & Johnson vaccines for Quad pool, common international travel COVID protocols for travelers were also discussed. Making India a solar power hub was also discussed along with cyber security.
राष्ट्रपति बाइडेन, प्रधानमंत्री मॉरिसन, प्रधानमंत्री सुगा पहली फिजिकल क्वाड समिट की ऐतिहासिक पहल के लिए राष्ट्रपति बाइडेन को बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद। हम चार देश पहली बार 2004 की सुनामी के बाद इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र की मदद के लिए एक साथ आए थे। आज जब विश्व कोविड-19 पैंडेमिक से मुकाबला कर रहा है तो क्वाड के रूप में हम एक बार फिर मिलकर मानवता के हित में जुटे हैं। हमारा क्वाड वैक्सीन इनिशिएटिव इंडो पैसिफिक देशों की बड़ी मदद करेगा। अपनी साझा डेमोक्रेटिक वैल्यूज के आधार पर क्वाड ने पॉजिटिव सोच, पॉजिटिव अप्रोच के साथ आगे बढ़ने का निर्णय लिया है। सप्लाई चेन हो या वैश्विक सुरक्षा हो, क्लाइमेट एक्शन हो या कोविड रिस्पांस या फिर टेक्नोलॉजी में सहयोग, इन सभी विषयों पर मुझे अपने साथियों से चर्चा करते बहुत खुशी होगी। हमारा क्वाड एक तरह से फोर्स फॉर ग्लोबल गुड की भूमिका में काम करेगा। मुझे विश्वास है क्वाड में हमारा सहयोग इंडो पैसिफिक में और विश्व में शांति और समृद्धि सुनिश्चित करेगा। धन्यवाद।
We are looking at fairly strong language with regard to the Quad's commitment on terrorism and the need to counter terrorism anywhere in the world. It reinforces the Quad's thinking on this issue and the need to combine efforts to deal with this common scourge. Also, with regard to Afghanistan, again, there is similar language, especially with the main points of Resolution 2595 mentioned therein.
Now, ahead of the Quad summit in Washington, D.C., China has slammed the Quad's agenda. Beijing said, and I quote, "The formation of exclusive closed cliques runs against the trend of times," unquote. As the Quad aims at countering growing Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific region, this was Beijing's response. Here's more.
Quad has rattled China. The summit between the US, India, Australia and Japan is bothering China, so much so that Beijing issued a statement ahead of the historic talks. China says any grouping of nations should not harm a third country.
China always believes that any regional cooperation mechanism should not target a third party or harm its interests. Seeking exclusive close cliques against a third country runs against the trend of the times and aspiration of countries in the region. It will find no support.
China's statement comes in the wake of the first in-person Quad summit between the US, India, Japan and Australia in Washington, D.C. on the invitation of President Joe Biden. The informal quadrilateral security talks aim to keep a check on growing Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific region and Beijing's claim on 1.3 million square mile South China Sea as its sovereign territory. In March, US President Joe Biden hosted the first ever summit of Quad leaders in the virtual format. The leaders then vowed to strive for an Indo-Pacific region that is free, rooted to democratic values, sending a subtle message to China.
The first in-person Quad meeting is significant. China, riled, is threatening and warning of ramifications, but undeterred Group of Four are going ahead to ensure democratic values are honored, that there is freedom of navigation and that there is inclusivity in the Indo-Pacific. In Washington, D.C., Geeta Mohan for India.
Now, all eyes were on the big Modi-Biden meet at the White House. The two leaders met for the first time since Joe Biden took over as United States President, and the two shared a visibly friendly and warm bonhomie. The two spoke about peace and climate change, among other issues, and indeed shared a few lighter moments as well. Here's all you need to know.
A handshake and a warm embrace. It took Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Joe Biden a little time to warm up to each other. But soon, jokes and laughs followed.
So the whole purpose of this meeting is for him to help me figure out.
And after the pleasantries, the two leaders, who were meeting for the first time since Biden took office, got down to business. Speaking first, President Biden invoked the Mahatma and his message of peace.
As the world celebrates Mahatma Gandhi's birthday next week, we're all reminded that his message of nonviolence, respect, tolerance matters today maybe more than it ever has.
The US president spoke at length on strengthening the Indo-US relationship further and recounted how he had predicted the friendship way back in 2006.
I think that the relationship between India and the United States, the largest democracies in the world, is destined to be stronger, closer, and tighter, and I think it can benefit the whole world. In fact, back in 2006, I set that hope out, where I said that by 2020, when I was Vice President, 2020, India and the United States would be among the closest nations in the world.
The US president emphasized on climate change and the effects of the pandemic. Indo-Pacific was a big focal point.
Prime Minister and I were going to be talking today about what more we can do to fight COVID-19, take on the climate challenges that the world face, and ensure stability in Indo-Pacific, including with our own Quad partners.
Prime Minister Modi too cited Mahatma's teachings while touching upon climate change, the biggest challenge in the years to come.
ये दशक उस ट्रस्टीशिप के लिए भी बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। महात्मा गांधी हमेशा इस बात की वकालत करते थे कि प्लेनेट के हम ट्रस्टी हैं और हमने हमारी आने वाली पीढ़ियों को एक ट्रस्टी के रूप में ये प्लेनेट को हमने सुपुर्द करना होगा, और ये ट्रस्टीशिप की भावना भी भारत और अमेरिका के बीच के संबंधों में एक बहुत अहमियत रखेगी।
The Prime Minister remarked that under Biden, seeds for a stronger relationship have been sown.
जब भारत और अमेरिका के संबंधों में मैं ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव देख रहा हूं, तब मैं देख रहा हूं कि ट्रेडिशन, लोकतांत्रिक परंपराओं और मूल्यों को लेकर के जो हम जी रहे हैं और जिसके प्रति हम समर्पित हैं, हम कमिटेड हैं, वो ट्रेडिशन का अपना एक महात्मा और अधिक बढ़ेगा।
The meet had several lighter moments as the leaders walked down the memory lane a bit.
I was elected as a 29-year-old kid in 1972. Before I was sworn in, I got a letter from a person named Biden, last name, in Mumbai, from Mumbai. The next morning I had a press conference going away, and the Indian press said, someone spoke up, you have 5 Bidens in India.
To that, Prime Minister Modi had a repartee ready.
आपने भारत में बाइडेन सरनेम के लोगों के सामने बड़ा डिटेल में जिक्र किया। आपने मेरे साथ भी इस बात का उल्लेख किया था। तो बाद में मैंने काफ़ी कुछ कागजात खोजने की कोशिश की है। कागजात में लेकर के भी आया हूँ। हो सकता है शायद उसमें से कुछ आगे का निकल आए, शायद आपको कुछ काम आए।
And today I have brought along some documents. Maybe we'll be able to take this matter forward, and maybe those documents could be of use to you.
Are we related?
Yes.
The first meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Biden has set the foundation for even more closer strategic ties. Faced with an expansionist China, the two countries, the world's largest democracies, will be engaging at various levels from trade to defense to protect their interests. With Geeta Mohan in Washington, D.C., Bureau Report, India Today.
Breaking piece of information that's coming in. President Joe Biden and Prime Minister Narendra Modi discussed the Afghanistan situation in their bilateral meeting. Both sides called upon the Taliban to adhere to its commitment and ensure Afghanistan is not used for terrorism against any country.
The two sides underscored the importance of combating terrorism in Afghanistan. They called on the Taliban to adhere to these and all of its commitments under Resolution 2593. That includes obviously the issue of, as I said, ensuring that Afghan territory is not used to threaten or attack any countries, to shelter or train terrorist groups, to plan or finance terrorist attacks, and underscored, as I said, the importance of combating terrorism in Afghanistan. It also called upon the respect to human rights of women, children, minorities, provision of humanitarian assistance and access to humanitarian workers, and of course called upon the two sides to secure an inclusive political negotiated settlement in
More breaking pieces of information that are coming in right now. Ahead of Prime Minister's UNGA speech, Pakistan spreads propaganda. Imran Khan raised the issue of Kashmir in his UNGA speech. India responds to Pakistan. Sneha Dubey, First Secretary at the UNGA, says, and I quote, attempt by the leader of Pakistan to tarnish the image of this August forum by bringing in matters internal to my country and going so far as to spew falsehoods on the world stage, unquote.
It has undertaken a series of illegal and unilateral measures in occupied Jammu and Kashmir since 5th August 2019. Indian actions violate the resolutions of the United Nations Security Council on Jammu and Kashmir.
This is not the first time the leader of Pakistan has misused platforms provided by the UN to propagate false and malicious propaganda against my country, and seeking in vain to divert the world's attention from the sad state of his country, where terrorists enjoy free pass, while the lives of ordinary people, especially those belonging to the minority communities, are turned upside down.
Welcome back. Punjab Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi has been summoned again to Delhi by the Congress top brass. It is the Chief Minister's third visit to Delhi in the past 4 days. Channi was called again to Delhi by the party high command to discuss the expansion of the state cabinet just hours after he returned from the national capital after holding late-night talks with Congress Member of Parliament Rahul Gandhi and Party General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. Apart from the Chief Minister, Punjab Congress Chief Navjot Singh Sidhu also arrived in the national capital with Punjab Congress in charge Harish Rawat. According to sources, some of the key aides of Captain Amrinder Singh are likely to be dropped from the Punjab cabinet. Rana Gurmeet Singh Sodhi, Sadhu Singh Dharamsot, Shyam Sundar Arora, Balbir Sidhu and Gurpreet Singh Kangar are likely to be dropped. Meanwhile, Brahm Mohindra is likely to become the Punjab Assembly Speaker. After high drama in Punjab, it is showtime in Rajasthan for Congress. Sources tell India Today that a long-pending cabinet reshuffle may finally take place in the first week of October to end the Rajasthan Congress implosion. Amidst buzz of a possible cabinet rejig, Congress leader Sachin Pilot met Priyanka and Rahul Gandhi yesterday in Delhi. Pilot's meet with the Gandhi siblings comes a day after his meeting with Assembly Speaker C.P. Joshi on Thursday. The top brass is trying to firefight the growing factionalism between the Pilot and the Ashok Gehlot camps, which escalated after the former Deputy Chief Minister's full-blown revolt against the Rajasthan Chief Minister earlier. Will the Congress now take the Punjab route to work out a truce formula in Rajasthan?